Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today is incredibly special, not just for me as a creator and as someone who gets to use this machine, but just as a talking point and for me to be able to express my opinion about the computing industry as a whole going forward. Because with these machines, from what I've seen from benchmarks and Apple's keynote and other people talking about them and having used an M1 MacBook Air, I think that Apple is likely chiseling words into Intel's gravestone with this machine. I don't know how they can recover, but that's besides the point. The primary point that I'm trying to make is these have gotten so powerful, like just in the last 2 years, that I don't know if I am enough creative for the machine. And that is weird because typically you can push a machine as far as it'll go relatively easily. But I'm in a media arts program and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to push this machine to its full potential. And that's something that just excites me, man. But without any further ado, I am gonna unbox it. We're gonna see what's going on inside here because I haven't seen this thing in person yet. I went to Best Buy, couldn't find it. I haven't seen this thing in person, and quite honestly, I thought it looked ugly. So we'll see if that holds true now. Is there a pull tab? Okay, yes, there is a pull tab. I got a second camera going. It is the crotch cam, and it will hopefully be doing a good job at showing this. Let me get the Peel audio real quick. This box is absolutely stunning. This machine is likely going to be absolutely stunning. It gives me 2012 MacBook Pro vibes in that it's just a little bit chunkier and replaces some of the ports. And let's get this opened up. Woo, that's a big laptop. Woo, that's a lot of surface area. Look at that. That thing's big. I've got big hands, and this is like. Let me grab my 12 Pro Max. That is a substantial laptop. That is big. Wow. Okay. Whew. Recenter. Take some deep breaths. Oh, and that's chunky, but that's not bad given what is stuffed inside this thing. I mean, even last year's MacBook Air gave our i9 powered desktop a run for its money. And this thing is more powerful by factors of a lot. In here we've got the braided MagSafe cable. MagSafe has made a return, so I don't have to worry about yanking this thing off the desk, which has almost happened with the Air. But let's take this wrapping off. Let's also get another peel. Oh, and it says MacBook Pro, like embossed on the bottom. Okay. Oof, those feet are prominent. That's just a huge canvas. You can see the embossing in there maybe. If it'll focus, you can see the embossing on the bottom. That's gorgeous. Whoa, looks really nice in person. Okay, at the back, that's a little bit sharp like some people were saying. That's a lot of cooling, and we've got SD cards. Oh, I don't have to use dongles as much anymore. MagSafe is very thin there. We've got some USB-C going on. I don't want to open it because then that's going to start the boot up process, and I've got class in like 30 minutes. So since my unboxing, I have had a couple weeks to kind of get to know this thing, put it to use as my workhorse, and just really put it through its paces. And this isn't a full review, but this is going to be sort of my first thoughts and impressions after using it for a couple weeks. And we are going to start off with some negatives, some things that I don't really like that much about it. Everyone thinks I'm a bit of an Apple sheep, and I'm not going to deny that, but I would like to maintain some level of objectivity in this review. So we're going to do the negatives before I change my mind, so let's get into that right now. Rushing the negatives along because, quite frankly, I don't really like talking about them all that much, and I don't think there are very many of them. None of these are deal breakers. Number one, this thing is like 2 software updates away from being the perfect laptop. And that's the easiest way I can put it, because there is some really bad optimization stuff that just really needs to be fixed. Like the status bar sometimes just becomes immovable, it never leaves, it blocks content, and it won't let you exit an application sometimes, which really sucks. Google Chrome sometimes decides that it just wants to be a permanent fixture on my homepage and not move or be exited. It literally has to be force quit for it to do anything. So just the status bar doesn't work very well sometimes. I have noticed that if you do load it up with widgets, it gets dangerously close to slipping underneath the notch, which I think is poor, and I think they could do a better job, but I think that is blown out of proportion by people on social media. I don't think that's the end of the world. My biggest indication of the fact that this thing just isn't optimized well is the fact that it suffers from the Monterey memory leak, which, if you are unfamiliar, is when a machine just starts hemorrhaging RAM to things that doesn't really need it. So in this one's case, I was editing in Final Cut using like 20 gigabytes of RAM, which I thought, okay, that's fine. But then I noticed that Control Center, where you control your brightness, do not disturb, was sucking 50 gigabytes of RAM out of this thing. 50. That is more memory than this thing has wired to it. That's more memory than our upgraded iMac has. That is more RAM than anyone ever needs in a machine like this, and I'm guessing that it just uses SSD swap to make that happen, because this is a 32 gigabyte model. It does not have that. Why is it spending 50 of those 30 gigabytes of RAM on the status bar, basically, and the control center? It's really bad, and it is a clear indication that this thing is not running as it should, and not running as fast or efficiently as it should, and that really needs to be fixed. So, completely unacceptable, but it's not really the end of the world. It's just going to make it slow for a little while. The second thing I've noticed or had observations about is the design, and quite frankly, I thought this thing was ugly when it came out. And I still don't think it's attractive, but my opinion has shifted slightly from it being ugly to it just being boring. And I mean, can you blame me? I mean, it is a gray, monolithic, square-sided laptop. There are very little distinguishing features about it other than it says MacBook Pro embossed here on the bottom. I'm not sure if that's going to focus on that. Let's go. But yeah, it's not flashy, and that's okay. Most people, you know, it doesn't draw that much attention other than the fact that it's huge, so I don't really mind. But I put this thing in the lounge in the common space in our building, and I've had pretty much these top 3 reactions, which is, why is it so thick? It's got ports, and oh, it has a notch. And that's pretty much the standout features for most people, and half of those aren't features, they're just observations. But it's gonna be totally lost on people, the actual power and beauty of this thing, because like, just the display, for instance, they're gonna look at it and go, oh, it has a notch, but no one's going to be able to understand what a 120 hertz variable refresh rate is, and it's going to be totally lost on someone who isn't a pro user when you explain to them that it has 10,000 local backlight dimming zones, a 1,000,000 to 1 contrast ratio, P3 color gamut, cinema profiles, and obviously a variable refresh rate. And it has mini LED, or what burn-in is, or blooming, or anything. Like, no one's going to know what that means, and there's very little way that you can put into context how powerful this machine is, other than saying it's as powerful as a PS5 or a Tesla Model S Plaid. That's literally the only way that I can express how powerful it is. Okay, so now we're going to talk about value, because this thing is really expensive. This thing is a mortgage payment, if not more than that. This thing's more like a down payment on a car. It's really expensive. This one is the 1 terabyte, 32 gigabyte of unified RAM model with the M1 Max with 32 cores. So this thing is gonna cost a lot of money. And a lot of people, it's frightening for a lot of people to spend that much on a laptop. Ports, it gives you cooling, it gives you fans, it gives you beautiful, actually fairly compact build. I mean, it's actually not that much thicker than the MacBook Air, it just doesn't hide it. The speakers on this thing and the stereo system on this thing, like the stereo separation that this thing creates, I thought the MacBook Air was really good. This supports spatial audio and has more than 2 speakers, so you are just getting a full, rich, bassy experience, and it's balanced. It certainly claps both stereo systems in both of our family's car, both of which are manufactured by Harman Kardon. So you can kind of get an idea of where that stands. And then there's the power. It replaces a lot. It replaces a stereo, it replaces a display, it replaces all the dongles you would have had to carry around, and it replaces literally an iMac. Like MKBHD is using this thing instead of an iMac Pro. And I can't help but agree with him. It is still so portable and it doesn't use that much power, and it's got MagSafe, which not only is so satisfying, but is also super useful because I don't have to plug it in, I just let it rest on it. And it charges through any of the other USB-C ports. It's just excellent. It's very well thought out. And MagSafe goes from 0 to 50% in 30 minutes, which is insane, and also one of the only times it kicks the fan on to keep it cool. But like, I can get a full day's use at a 50% on this thing. It would be light use, but I could do it. And in only 30 minutes, that means that this thing is just constantly ready to go, constantly banging out big projects, constantly in After Effects. Like this thing, it's pro. It is finally pro, and I finally, again, have to ask myself, am I enough creative for the laptop? And so far, the answer has mostly been no. And I'm excited to push this thing to its limits in the coming few weeks when I get to know it and when it gets software updates. But yeah, until then, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all in the next one. I'm very, very excited about this machine. And yeah, this goes out to you, Ian. Peace.